Hello, masters and princesses. Welcome again to another edition of Made News Network. I want to thank you guys so much. We are closing out the beginning of this month, going into March, and there's some good stuff coming up because Band-Maid has some shows lined up. But thank you again so much for watching, for subscribing. For those who haven't yet, would you please do so? We just love to see this channel grow and to spread the news of Band-Maid. We also have started selling merch. And for those who are excited to get in line for Dawn Patrol, be there early and kind of show off a little bit of your cred, we've got that available. So there's links below for that. But other than that, today we have a special guest who has been with us before. And I think the majority of you probably have heard of him or know him somewhere online. You've seen his name or you've seen his face in pictures. And I think I don't want to quite say legend, but he's definitely becoming a well-known figure in the Band-Maid fan community. So I would like to welcome back Richard Hogan. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Great. I see that you're sporting Band-Maid. Do you do this on a regular basis?
Actually, I try to preserve all my gear. I only wear it for this or shows.
I do understand that. Like all this stuff were in boxes. Shirts were just in their plastic. And I thought, gosh, if there's any reason to bring it out, I guess it's for this channel. But otherwise, it was inside for the past like 3-4 years.
Yeah, most of the stuff from the past tour is all still in bags and boxes. And when I was in Japan, I bought a whole nother set of albums that I haven't opened. So I played all the first set. Had to get 2 sets of records.
Got it. How many beanies do you have left from those 14 shows?
I think I have 5 left. I gave one to my daughter, and then I think 7 of them I gave away in Japan.
Got it. 7 of them. Wow, that's really cool. So it's been 3 months since you were last interviewed by MNN, and that was with SJ. And I know that you had fallen down the rabbit hole. You had said it was 2021 you found them?
Yeah, it was March. Yeah, so next month will be 2 years. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you said you had fallen hard down into the rabbit hole. Do you feel now, after 3 months, even just 3 months from the 14 US shows and doing, because you've attended a couple more shows, do you feel the rabbit hole goes even deeper than you realized?
I think the rabbit hole is as deep as you can take time off work and spend money on. That's I would go deeper if I had more time and money. So
Gotcha. Do you ever feel like, uh, do you ever just stop and go, man, what have I gotten myself into?
yeah, I don't know. It's like I've seen the only other band I've seen a lot of times is Hailstorm. And that's been 6 times over 10 years. Not I've seen Band-Maid 16 times in 4 months. So but again, this is at this time of my life, I'm more willing to spend money to
Uh-huh.
go do things.
Yeah.
You get older. In the last 8 years, I've lost parents, and
Hmm.
you get to the point like, how ambulatory are you going to be when you're older? So do it
Hmm.
now.
Got it.
And I'm willing to sell stuff and
Yeah.
to fund it and not spend money on other things. So.
Okay. Okay. So this is a little bit of a new experience for you, though, going in this deep, this quick into something.
into one band. I've been to probably 200 live shows,
Mm,
and I live in a place where there's not that many. So if I do go to a show, I'm always traveling. It's a
got it.
5 hour drive or a flight. People say they've seen 100 bands, but they live in LA. That doesn't mean anything to me. It's like, well, you just walk down the street or right across town, but to follow one band this close, I usually
Yeah.
go to several concerts in a year. They're just all different bands. But
Okay.
um,
Yeah. So, okay. So Hailstorm was the last band. Do you feel that you went this deep into, or that you were willing this willing to go to all their shows?
Yeah, even with them, it'd be like one a year, and
Mm,
then there might be a couple years
mm,
spread between the next one because they were in Europe or something, or there wasn't one close enough that I was going to travel for. But I was also seeing many other bands too, like
mm,
the opportunities I have to see Rush. I've seen them a couple times, and
yeah.
I was mixing more bands and
Mm,
going to some festivals. I've been to like Austin City Limits and
mm,
stuff like that.
yeah. Okay. Okay. I mean, because there are definitely times where over the past, I'll be going on 5 years. Like for you, it'll be 2 years in March. For me, it'll be 5 years in May. And there are definitely moments where I ask myself, what have I gotten myself into? Why am I this obsessed with Band-Maid? Is this healthy for me?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think they combined so much of all the bands I like the most into one band. I've never had one band that just had everything in it.
Hmm.
They have the musicianship of Rush and the powerful singing of Hailstorm and
Hmm.
the classic song structures and complicated songs. They have every like what other band has prog, punk, metal, hard rock,
Hmm.
pop rock, and any mix of those in any
Yeah.
song. Might be
Yeah.
one, two, three, or all of those things in any one song.
Yeah.
It doesn't. There is no other band that does that.
You're definitely committed to fall straight down as deep as it goes.
Yeah, yeah,
So you were so committed and so deep that you actually flew to Japan for the first time. Is that correct?
yeah, yeah, yes. And it was kind of short notice, so it was expensive.
Okay. So how much time did you actually spend in Japan?
So I was gone for a week, but when you lose a day and gain a day, I was actually only able to utilize 5 days.
Oh, that is kind of short.
Uh,
Got it.
yeah,
Got it.
because you lose a whole day going over there.
Right.
Uh,
So you were in Tokyo. I mean, first off, just how was that experience to be in Japan? I mean, it's your first time. And for me, when I first came to Japan, I thought this place is it's a little wacky. It's very cool. It's very bright in places. It's very interesting. So how was that first experience coming to Japan?
Actually, I love Japan. I mean, I like the control and organization. I work in engineering, so that kind of fits that personality type.
Uh,
And then I also like the not disturbing other people. Maybe
mm,
they take it too far, but I always saw the things where they won't sit next to foreigners on trains. Well, if you're splayed out everywhere, I wouldn't sit next to you no matter what country we're in. Um, but I, paid attention, kept myself very straight, and yeah, everybody sat next to me. I didn't have that problem at all. So
yeah, yeah. Okay. So you came to Tokyo. You were here to see Band-Maid at Tokyo Garden Theater, correct?
yeah, yeah, that was the whole point. Michael Barber, the hero. He's the true American Band-Maid hero.
He's something else. He lives in a different sphere for
Yes,
sure.
I
So
aspire.
one day we'll get there.
Yeah.
So with Tokyo Garden Theater, all the previous shows in the States, they weren't the largest capacity venues. And for you, it's almost kind of a blur, right? Like that's almost like one very long show spread out a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard to separate shows. I mean, there I can pick a lot of things from them, but
Hmm.
it all those shows in some extent run together.
Right. So for Tokyo Garden Theater, how was that experience being in Japan at a Band-Maid show? What was that experience like? And how was it to be, because it's not just a Band-Maid show in Japan, it's their largest capacity ever for a one-man show. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, so that's kind of the differential between smaller venues up close on the rail
Mm,
versus I was if you count the walkways, I was probably 20 rows back on Konami's side.
Mm,
So that theater is great. So I think anywhere you are, you have really good views because it's made to be a theater. It's not a converted arena or a
mm,
stadium where they put a stage on one end.
mm,
It's designed for almost everybody everywhere to be able to see.
mm.
So unless you're really short and you're on the ground, but otherwise, it it's well laid out, well built. It's really new. It's really nice. So that's a great place to see a concert, and it was huge. So
Mm.
that was a big production. The difference between them on a stage and huge screen behind them,
Right.
that was a spectacle to see. They did make it a spectacle. So
Right. So in terms of personal preference, going from the smaller venues up close and personal at the rail versus being, which was actually the section where I actually got those tickets. So you and
yeah,
who was the other person?
Derek Stevenson.
Derek Stevenson. Yeah. So that was originally tickets that I bought for myself and for Michael Barber, but Michael had,
Yeah, yeah.
like 10 different tickets. So in terms of preference, how would you say you prefer this to this or this to that with the
Oof,
shows?
it's so non-committal to say this, but you should do both.
Mm,
Take your opportunities when they're there. See the small show, be in the smaller venues,
mm,
uh, and then go to the big shows because they're completely different experiences.
right.
You should being back there and seeing everything happening and being able to see the whole band
Yeah.
and this what they're putting on, and the sound was great back there too. That
Yeah.
is something when you're on the rail. Some of the venues were much better with sound, and some were like one of the shows I was in front of Miku's amp, and don't get
Mm,
me wrong, she's a great player, but when the rhythm guitar is 20% louder than the rest of the band, it's not necessarily, I mean, the show is still entertaining and I would have never traded.
yeah.
And if you're a musician, being in front of each one and hearing their amps louder individually is great.
Yeah.
But if you only have to go to one show, I would not recommend that. I would stay if you're into sound, don't I would be in the triangle with the mixing board, maybe 5 rows back. That might be the best place to be.
Mm,
Um, but if you're into different experiences,
right.
yeah, be in front of each person's amp. That is, and then be in the back, see it all. I know
Right.
many of the other YouTubers have talked about being at tables and up in balconies and how great the show was from there.
Mm, mm,
That's if you have the opportunity, do both.
yeah. So at Tokyo Garden Theater, was there one particular experience or moment that was better than the rest, like a special one that really stood out to you?
Oh man, that's a good question. Uh, well, I got to experience lasers with Band-Maid, and that's how everybody gets introduced to the Domination videos.
Oh, okay, right,
It's like,
right.
yes, this is how it all started, you know. But yeah, and then it was interesting that I had a gentleman that was a couple rows behind me who spoke to me, which was very unusual for somebody in Japan to come up and talk to you. Obviously, a couple came up and talked to you before the show because they recognized you, but he asked if I knew what it said up on the screen afterwards, and I said I know something's happening on the 23rd. Was it of November? But I didn't know what it was, and so he said it's U.S. tour in Yokohama, and
Mm.
then I asked him, I'm like, I'm surprised you talked to me, and he was like, well, I saw your video on YouTube, so I'm like, even with a mask, they recognize.
Yeah, that
So I
happens.
blame you guys.
It is interesting. So, okay, then that leads me to another question. So over the past few months and since again, you're pretty notorious in Band-Maid Fans Cafe. I guess more so now because of MNN and the interview that we did with you. So at the last couple of shows at Tokyo Garden Theater, as well as at the Palladium with the Last Rockstars, have you been getting some of that attention besides just that one person?
uh, Outside of the Tokyo Garden Theater, there were people that kind of recognized me. That, as you know, living in Japan, they're not going to come up and talk to you.
Hmm.
But you know, you could see people. And there was people from other countries that came
Mm,
up to me.
mm.
A guy from Argentina. I was like, "Oh, I saw you on." It's more likely you're going to meet somebody from another country come up to you while you're in Japan.
Right.
Um, and then only one person at the Last Rockstars, but not that many people, I believe, were there for Band-Maid. I mean,
Mm,
that's expected. But one guy did come up in the middle of the Last Rockstars set, and I don't think he spoke much English. I think he
mm,
came from Japan, and he was pointing to all the Band-Maid dates on his phone in the U.S.
mm,
and asked which one I was going to, and
mm.
well, he maybe he recognized me, maybe he didn't.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, the tables have turned a bit. Because when I met you in LA, you were like, Peter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But to get that from somebody else to you, now being
yeah. It's weird.
recognized,
Yeah,
uh, you'll get more, especially with this video dropping as
nice.
well. So, okay. It was a great experience at Tokyo Garden Theater, that bigger venue, just the lights, the lasers, the smoke. Um,
And the
you
sound
did
was better.
the sound was better. You did attend a Brideer show with myself and with Michael Barber a
Yes.
couple of nights before that. So besides Band-Maid, was that your first other Japanese band show?
Yeah, I had seen Nemophila at Aftershock, so I went and
Okay.
found them at Aftershock too.
Hmm.
So, out of Japanese Band-Maid is by far my favorite, and Band-Maid's my number one band, period, across all bands.
Yeah.
Out of Japanese, Nemophila would be number two.
Hmm.
They're more of a specific style of band, but they do
Right.
have quite a bit of variety within that style.
Hmm.
And then maybe out of Japan, the number three would be um, Love Bites, but they are very niche. When
Right.
they play their songs, they are all that a specific style of song, much less variety. But I really like
Right.
them. I have three of their albums, but
Okay.
nobody is the breadth and width of Band-Maid. So
Right. Agreed.
Nemophila might not even be in my top 10 bands all time, and I don't know if Love Bites is in my top 50, but when you have
Gotcha.
thousands of albums, it's even being in the top 50 is way up there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So because of Band-Maid, do you find yourself diving deeper into other Japanese bands? And because some people, what happens to some people is they stop listening to everything else and it's all about Japanese bands. Do you see that trend happening with you, or it's just you're just sort of picking, "Oh, I like this, I like this, I like this," or is it sort of all into this area?
well, I still listen to a lot of other bands, but I would say a lot of others. I mean, there's a lot of bit of variety.
Hmm.
I listen to Band-Maid probably 90 to 95% of the time. Their catalog is so big and so varied. I can listen to a Band-Maid one album for 3 months straight, and only a few other
Hmm.
albums filter in
Hmm.
one time because there's so much variety on every album.
Hmm.
I never get tired of listening to them.
Hmm.
Um, but I'll listen to a Shinedown album and then maybe a Pretty Reckless,
Hmm.
and, and then it'll be Band-Maid again for 3 weeks straight. Just one album. Like right now, Conquer is in there, and before that was uh, Domination.
Hmm. Oh, that's no problem.
Yeah.
Um, so
Okay.
so you did Tokyo Garden Theater, and then just wait, today is okay. So it's like a little over a week ago, you flew down to LA
Yeah.
for one show, a 20-minute set. You were able to stand right in front of Akane. Um, how was that for you? As, as
When I
someone as someone who was just completely just inspired by Akane to take up drums, wait, again, right?
well, I actually there's no way I'm gonna try to play any of her. Maybe her old stuff I could play it, but there's no new stuff. I'm not gonna try to play any of it. But no, I
Uh,
played drums for 30 years. That's what drew me in right away is when I first hear a song from them, and I'm like, wow, that drummer's really good. And then I listen to everything, and so that's Akane is what hooked me into Band-Maid. But yeah, no. When I saw the New York pictures, I was like, oh, if I can make it to LA, they're gonna have the same stage. I could be right in front of Akane. So that was my goal the whole time, was to just go right there.
Got it.
I
And
could
how
get
was
there.
that? How was that for you?
That is, if you have the opportunities for certain members, take it. I've been in front of all of them except for Akane, and that was the only time I think you're ever going to get that, unless they open for another band that has a really big stand behind them.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was actually SJ and Joe Luna were in front of me, but they got ran over by the Japanese women on the way in. And since I have been through, by that time, 14 metal detectors for Band-Maid shows, I could read the crowd and pick the right route, and got there to the rail quite a bit before them, even though I was behind them.
Oh,
And
okay.
right in front of Akane was open, so I went straight there.
Yeah.
And then the one gal that SJ was talking about that gave him her spot, she was there, but her sister hadn't made it. So I said, she's like, oh, my sister's not here. What am I going to do? And I said, well, I'll help you hold the rail for her. So I held the rail for her, and well, between her and we held it for her sister. And so her sister went there, and then SJ came up behind me about 30, 40 seconds later. And was like, nice, Probably had footprints across his back, but he got ran over.
So being in front of Akane, was there something special? Was there a moment, or was it just throughout the show? What was special about that? In your own words, like what would you tell someone what that experience was like?
Well, she seems very shy being up front like that, so that's really endearing. And especially since there's 3 people with Band-Maid gear right in front of her, I think she was maybe not expecting that. That probably didn't happen anywhere else. And of course, at all the other shows, I've been in front of everybody else. So this one, we poured it into her.
Yeah.
And then the other Joe that was there, he's a drummer too. So 2 drummers right in front of her.
Yeah.
And I think she was a little embarrassed. Maybe we're reading her wrong, but I hope she at least got some lift out of that.
I'm sure she did. As embarrassed as she may have been at some points.
And maybe she wasn't embarrassed. Maybe that's just her personality or style. It's hard to tell. She's always in the back.
Right.
Most of the US shows, there was a symbol in front of her face. So.
So you're kind of doing things that you probably never expected to do, flying to Japan for this band, for this show, flying down to LA just to watch a 20-minute set, pretty much. So that you've definitely invested, and I'm sure your wife knows that you're investing a lot into Band-Maid. And you said in the previous interview that she was very supportive because she's been doing this like all her life. You've been watching the kids while she goes off on these festivals. Has she at some point said, wow, this is very unexpected. You're going in deeper than I had expected. You're doing more than I had anticipated.
No, she hasn't said that. At least on the money side of things, we have separate accounts for this kind of stuff. So it's not like I'm pulling out of our joint funds for anything. I have our paychecks go into our own account, and we contribute to a joint account that pays the household stuff. So
yeah,
whatever she spends her money on, she spends it on. Whatever I spend mine on. So in that way, and then I bought airfare for her and I to go back to Japan in September to pick up 4 Band-Maid shows. So she gets some benefit out of this. She gets to go to Japan for 2 weeks.
That is a good benefit.
Kind of hard to be upset with me going to 4 shows, but she gets 2 weeks in Japan. So
yeah. So has there been some influence? Like, has she listened to Band-Maid material and thought, oh, they're not bad.
Oh yeah, the very first day I found them, I just threw it up on YouTube and played every video going through. And after about 2 hours, she was like, if you're trying to get me into Japanese hard rock, it's working. So so she likes them, but she's not there. She's not, she's really into music. She's probably seen more bands live than I have. but
Okay.
she's not all in on one band. She's
Got it.
very broad.
Okay.
She actually lived in Japan for 7 years. She was an Air Force brat, so
Oh, really?
Okinawa,
Okay.
Okinawa.
Does she speak some
Till she was
Japanese?
no, she lived there till she was 7. Then she lived in Germany for 4 years. She doesn't speak any German either. So
Got it. So, you've been so committed and you've given quite a bit to Band-Maid over these past few months. What do you think you would be doing with this time and this money that you've given so much to Band-Maid up to this point?
well, the money would probably be sitting in some sort of account or investment, or that's about it. I do have some muscle cars, but
Mm,
I haven't stopped spending money on those, and I
mm,
do ride a lot of bicycles.
mm,
So, but maybe ride my bikes a little more. That would be about it. I might go to other concerts, a few more, but
mm.
not like last year, 14 Band-Maid shows. I might have gone to 2 other concerts, instead of those 14.
Yeah.
Like I said, for me, I would have to fly to Portland or drive to Portland or fly to Sacramento or LA or wherever to see most of the bands I want to see. I mean, they occasionally will stop here,
Hmm.
but it's not, you might get 2 bands in 2 years and then not get anybody for 3 years. It
Mm,
just depends.
yeah.
Well, this I live on the I-5 corridor, so actually Band-Maid stayed here when they were driving between Seattle and
Wow.
San Francisco.
Okay.
Talking to the bus driver, he's like, "Oh, we stayed overnight in Medford," and I'm like, "Yeah, I was in Seattle when they stayed here."
Yeah. So, man, I guess Band-Maid has really been quite transformative for you this past couple of years. Do you see yourself just going full on? I mean, from this point on, like just nothing but Band-Maid? Because I think some people have said like Band-Maid has made me lose the taste, the flavor of other bands, of other music. Like,
Yeah, it it won't. I will still go see other bands, but probably less. So I am going to see Nemafila in March.
mm,
I have tickets for their Sacramento and San Francisco show.
yeah,
Um, and this year I'm going to try to make. Hopefully August works out so I can hit 6 Band-Maid shows. That will be 14 Band-Maid shows last year and 14 this year.
mm,
So 28 in 2 years. But there'll still be 2 Nemafila shows in there, and if a band comes through here, I'll see them.
yeah.
But I don't. All I see are country bands on my horizon here, so I'm not going to those.
So you are attending shows in May. How many shows will you be at?
2, Houston and Austin.
Okay. So you have two in May. How many will you be watching when you come to Japan?
4. So I
Okay,
was gonna do the September 23rd, 22nd, September 30th, and October 1st.
got
So
it. One of those is Hiroshima, right?
yeah, Hiroshima's on the 23rd, and Takamatsu's the 30th, and
Hmm,
Matsuyama, if you say that right, October 1st,
hmm,
and Okayama, the 22nd.
got it. So you'll be here 4 more shows, and then in August you're hoping, well, before you come to Japan, you're hoping to throw in a few more shows for that.
6, and I hope I can do, depending on how they spread them out. That's why I want to know.
Right.
If they're not done correct, in the right orders, the right towns, I can hit 6. And that will be 14 for the year, but more spread out throughout the year rather than all in one 1 month.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, I've been following Band-Maid for 5 years now. And of course, there are people who've been following Band-Maid for like a decade, but I've been following Band-Maid for 5 years, and Tokyo Garden Theater was my 11th show. Here you are, sort of a whippersnapper kind of.
Yeah,
You've basically knocked out 16 shows already, and you're about
yeah.
to do another 12 this year to have, or 14?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do 14 this year. Yeah, total. So 14 last year, 14 this year.
Right. But then you also have the Tokyo Garden and you have the Last Rockstars. So
That,
you'll have
that's
seen Band-Maid 30 times.
no. I'm including the Last Rockstars and in
Got
this
it.
year.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah. in Tokyo Garden in this year. It's in this calendar year. So
Yeah, that's not bad. That's pretty impressive.
no, yeah. Well, the U.S. tour helps. It's all in 3 weeks. I had 3 weeks. I did 13 shows. So
Yeah.
that obviously it's all over the place. But when I did that, airfare was cheap because all the airlines were struggling with coming out of the pandemic. So
Mm,
it cost me less to fly to all those U.S. cities than it did just to fly to Japan. So
mm,
it it was expensive, but it wasn't as much as maybe you would think. And if you know what you're doing, like I've
mm,
learned from a lot of people,
mm,
because although I did a lot of shows, there was a lot of people that did 10 of them and
mm.
a whole bunch that did 6. So I just was fortunate enough to hit them all, but it's not that unusual. There was probably a dozen people that did 10 of those US shows, and
Mm.
they probably did it much cheaper because they know what they're doing. I didn't know what I was doing, so
Well, you've learned. You've learned.
yes. Yeah, yeah. You mentioned for that one gal to get a hold of me, she was wondering how
Mm,
to get in the show. Yeah,
right, Grace Cho.
yeah, yeah. So I had messaged her before you said that, but
Okay,
to
that's cool.
specifically give her advice on what to do and when to do it. But
Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, for all of your devotion and maybe obsession towards Band-Maid, it's cool that you're willing to share what you've kind of been given, like at the shows and doing all those things. So I mean, I think that for me, I appreciate seeing that because I know there are
yeah,
fans who become very obsessed towards things and it's only for them, it's all about them. So to have someone like you in the fandom and to be willing to share against spots and help people out, that's really cool. I think it definitely
yeah.
helps to build up the community.
Especially the princesses, they're the ones that struggle to get to the front. And
Right.
they always say there's a lot of guys, but at Houston, probably 30% of the crowd was women, but you
Mm,
just don't see them because there's 50 guys that are willing to wait in line for 10 hours. So
mm,
that's what you see in the front. But if you
got it.
walk down the lines, there are, depending on the venues, there's
Mm,
there can be quite a few. They just don't have a chance to get to the front. So when I see they need a chance to get to the front, I do what I can. I can't force people to let them in, but most of the guys are pretty receptive, especially because they're small.
yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. Well, yeah, I think we'll stop it here. But rather than something for you to say to the Band-Maid fans, if you could say anything to Band-Maid, what would you want to say to them?
Well, it made me travel the world. How's that? Yeah, yeah. The quality and quantity of music is. I don't say this lightly, but they are the best band in the world. It's not. And to say have an opinion like that, you pretty much need to play an instrument, and you need to have a large exposure to music of all
Mm,
genres. And
mm,
if I'm going to listen to what you say, and you need to have been to a lot of live shows and
mm,
to really experience these bands. And yeah,
mm.
I think I've been to enough bands, had enough musical exposure.
Yeah.
I don't really have any regrets saying they are the best, all-encompassing band in the world. They
Mm.
got it. So
Yeah,
that's what I
awesome.
need to tell them. You are the best band in the world. Own it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, I mean, thank you again so much for interviewing with us again. It's definitely good to see you when I do. I've seen you
Yeah,
twice now in person, like LA and
yeah,
then
yeah,
at Tokyo Garden. So that was really nice to catch up a little bit. And it's good to talk to you again today. So thank you again, Richard.
yeah, yeah.
Um, thank you guys for watching this video. This has been Peter from MNN. Please, again, continue to subscribe, to like, comment below. What shows are you planning to attend? Have you met Richard yet? And if not, I'm sure you will at some point, at some show. So thank you guys again, and continue to listen to Band-Maid, enjoy their music, enjoy your lives, and have a great time doing whatever you're doing. All right, thank you guys. Bye.